This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 41. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And today we're going south all the way to Argentina. And it's going to be awesome. I'm psyched to introduce you guys to some of the South American telemarketers that I've met. And hopefully we'll have more. And they will all be in English because my Spanish is terrible. So, without further ado, let me give you a little intro of who we are going to be speaking to today. He is at the forefront of telemark skiing in South America and is helping bring better instruction and awareness of dropping knees to his hometown of Bariloche, Argentina. He currently runs his two businesses in Bariloche, a training and consulting business, as well as a guiding business. He helped translate the AAIRE avalanche training course material into Spanish, and he's the guy to know when you are looking for the best mate and asado on your trip down south to do some telemark skiing. So please welcome my good friend, Diego Allolio. All right, Diego, how's it going? Welcome to the Freeheel Life Podcast, my friend.
Hey, Josh. How are you?
Good. I can hear that boiling water in the background. It sounds like you're making some mate.
I'm ready. I'm ready to roll. My mate is set. The Bombilla is in the gourd. I have the finest yerba. I mix my own.
Oh wow!
So today I have a little bit of mint in the more traditional yerba.
You put mint in it?
So I'm ready to go.
You put mint in it?
Yes, you could sort of customize your mate, your yerba, and explore different tastes. And it's pretty good for conversation.
I love that. I know. It's funny because nowadays I feel like mate is probably a little more, like at least the herb is a little more well known up here than it was like 20 years ago, and because there's like energy drinks with mate and whatnot. But
I couldn't be more excited to see the guys from Guayaquil sponsoring some telemark shots up in the Sierras.
Oh yeah, because Guayaquil mate, they work with Ty Dayberry. So,
correct.
Yeah, but that's I appreciate you having a mate because that makes our you are the first South American guest on the podcast, so I feel like having a mate in hand represents Argentina very well. I like it.
Cheers.
I love that, man. Well, just to kind of I don't even know if I know your whole background and kind of where you're from, but I'm maybe let our guests know a little bit about where you grew up, where you're from, kind of how you got into snow sports and whatnot.
Yeah, no problem. So I was born in a small town in northeast Argentina, complete mate land, no mountains. And that's where, a lot of people migrated in between the two wars. And so that's where my folks came from, and they started a little farm in Entre Rios next to Uruguay. But I grew up in Buenos Aires, a big city. Very fun city, very eclectic, a lot of things going on. However, it lacked one thing, that it wasn't the family. It lacked the mountains. My dad was a climber, a mountaineer, not so much of a skier, although I have some slides of him using skis, but I think they use skis mostly for commuting in the mountains. Those skis I still have, and those are wooded skis. And back then in the mid-40s, Argentina was making its own skis and its own original ski bindings, which you guys know, it's pretty much the ancient telemark binding, right? Complete Freeheel, real seal skins.
Oh wow!
And yeah, that was a norm up, I would say, up till early 60s when the first more like modern equipment started getting into Argentina. And it was impressive because our president by then he was very fond of the mountain activities, and he sponsored, like, Argentina had a very early on large expedition to Daulagiri when Everest wasn't conquered yet. So there was this big push from all countries to trying to be the first to climb one of those 18,000 meters peak. So there was already a big mountain tradition in Argentina and also in Bariloche, particularly where I live right now, where I reside. Back then, yeah.
That's amazing. So when did you? So growing up in Buenos Aires, were you skiing like as a young kid, or was that kind of something that caught on with you later?
That's a great question. So my very first ski season was when I was 18, and I had a girlfriend who will come every year to Bariloche. So only when I was finishing high school, I was able to go skiing for the first time and came to Bariloche, and that was it, right? It clicked so deeply in myself. And then, unfortunately, I never got to share the passion with my dad. And so the next thing that happened in my life that conspired to completely veer off from what I was supposed to be doing in terms of my family tradition, I started working for Patagonia. So we started a Patagonia clothing distribution in Argentina in 1990. And by then I was finishing college. So after my first trip to California, I discovered a different world where people, will take a break from the office and go for a run, go for a surf, go for a bike ride. And needless to say, I was looking at those old Patagonia catalogs, and I will watch these guys with long beards and round jewel glasses and Hawaiian shirts, wearing jeans and jumping off these steep couloirs. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. And man, it's such I get goosebumps when I'm saying this. So that was really deep in my soul. And so I finished my college degree in agroeconomics, and I never practiced that. And so once I finished, I had an opportunity to continue my sort of exploring and experience in the mountains in the U.S. And so I took off, and I left Buenos Aires for good. And then I put my savings into studying a little bit of business in Berkeley. I also discovered another world there. And
that must have been a wild trip. You go Buenos Aires to Berkeley, California. Wow, that's got to be a pretty big difference.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm coming from a conservative Catholic, I wouldn't call it isolated, but it's like a little bubble in Buenos Aires and in Argentina. And so this was eye opener at many levels. And then my funds start running short, and then I discovered that I could be a ski bum, and in doing so, I could improve my English and also improve my skiing. That by then it was pretty much alpine, and we were still skiing. I mean, first parabolic skis just came out. The Volants just came out.
Oh, right.
But I was still skiing like. I think you saw my skis here, and these are F9s that I bought in a used shop that winter in Aspen. I have them here with me in my office.
Is that the Solomon? And Solomon F9?
Yeah, the Solomons are the blue. They were cool. They were like the primitive free riding tool, I guess.
Yeah. So was this like mid 90s? I'm trying to picture time frame.
Yeah, mid 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
Mid 90s. Yes. Absolutely. And then, but still, I will watch a guy telling down I will go every weekend or every 2 days off. I wouldn't work. I wouldn't do a second job in Aspen. I will just go skiing, and I will watch these guys going down Aspen Highlands on telly. I was like, damn, when am I going to learn this? So by a few years later, I found myself working in the mountains for an outdoor education program based in Wyoming called Knolls. And Knolls, it was great. It took me to amazing places, including Patagonia, Mexico, Alaska, the Pacific Northwest.
Were you a guide for Knolls then, or like an instructor?
Yeah. I was a mountaineering instructor. I also did some kayaking for them. And then I started a Leave No Trace Spanish program, and we will go down to Mexico and Chile and train rangers in what is called limits of acceptable change. It's like a management tool for a protected area, and also a little bit of just simply low impact techniques for everything you do outdoors, from camping to hiking, and so by then I was working the summers, and I never quit the idea to come back to Argentina one day, or to Patagonia more specifically, because that's exactly where I wanted to be. And in the middle of that, I met my wife, and then I spent some time in southern Chile, and then at some point we're ready to establish ourselves in Bariloche, which is the ski center. I mean, the ski place in South America, really. I mean, there are many great places to ski, but the real stuff in terms of the community and everything going on is here.
Yeah, that place
largest
is
community, at least.
That Bariloche is amazing for those of you guys that have not been over there. I mean, it's mountains, high alpine, surrounded by water. It almost kind of reminds me of almost like the Sierra, but with like Lake Tahoe around it or something like that, like kind of that area, almost where you got like these big lakes and kind of have that high alpine vibe to it.
Absolutely. I get the same feeling when I visit Tahoe, but because the Lake Tahoe is more like an oval, and the Nahuel Huapi Lake it's very convoluted after glaciation. So it has these like fjord-like arms. So when you're out there, either in the summer or in the winter, it has this feeling of you're not. It's hard. Basically, what you see is like this water, and then you see more mountains and more mountains and more mountains. It has this very particular feeling.
Yeah.
The mountains are not as high as the Sierra, and and also not like the Rockies, but the quality of the terrain, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Your mic might be getting a little bit scratchy. You have headphones on?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's almost like, now it's quiet. Yeah, it was kind of like shh. I just thought I'd mention it.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's good now.
Yep.
No worries, dude. That's amazing. It's such a unique area. Like the whole Bariloche experience was cool because it's like kind of. I remember telling you this because I lived in Brazil, and it kind of reminded me of like going to in town. It's almost like going to Europe, in terms of like the architecture, but then there's still a lot of dirt roads, like going out to the homes out on the outskirts of town and stuff too. So it's kind of you definitely can feel that like Latin Euro mix of things, which is pretty cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, this is. Some people say we live in a bubble here, and outside this bubble, there is the rest of the context in South America, like crazy economics. Argentina is not different from that. It's crazy politics, but all in all, we still enjoy a high degree of freedom, and yeah, the access to all the things we love here, it's amazing. So maybe, the snow in Bariloche, it isn't the best in the world. Maybe the granite is not it's some of the best in the world to climb, but it's not. The spires are not as big as Chamonix,
Right.
but we still have those. The lake is, it's not the biggest lake in the world, but it's a beautiful lake, and so on. The list goes on. So that's why we call it a little Disneyland, because whatever you enjoy doing outdoors, you can do here. And needless to say, it's fun to raise a family here. See the little kids start doing all the things we love to do. So
Yeah.
it's amazing.
That's amazing. Well, so did you pick up Telemark when you were in Aspen, or like when you were in the States, or the Knoll? I know Knowles in the 90s definitely was a lot of Telemark stuff too.
Yes. They, for ages, they have this. Even when people start shifting to 80-year, Knowles will have its winter prom was based in the Tetons on the Idaho side, and they will still have leather boots and old skis, and they will teach people winter camping skills and travel skills on skis, and that gear was 100% Telemark, lightweight, a little bit old school, I would say, but and
Is that where you learned? Is that where you learned how to make the Telemark turn? Then was as an instructor?
No. So as I said, back then I was fully working summers, so it was hard to find the time and the place to devote more time to the snow. So once I established myself in Bariloche, I committed again to water in all forms. So in the summer, I decided to move on a little bit from climbing and being a mountaineer. And so I took some American Canoe Association courses to learn how to roll. So as soon as I could do a little bit of whitewater kayaking, and then we did some good fun wave surfing on kayaks, on playful kayaks, and that was fun on Chile. And then in the winter, it was 100% skiing. So being a local here, you can buy a very cheap seasonal pass, and allows you to put all the hours of fun that anyone needs to, progress. And so one winter, also when I got here, I was on the lift, and then all of a sudden I see this like curly hair, blonde guy, very tall, and he's telemarking. I'm like, dude, that must be a gringo, I thought. And as it turns out, he's another Bariloco, as we say. Bariloco is someone from Bariloche, and short after, we became acquaintances, and then now we're really good friends. And so it's like, damn, we need to do that. So he introduced me another Bariloco who happened to be a physicist in the atomic center. So 2 kilometers away from my house, there is a mini nuclear reactor, because all the nuclear research in Argentina is done in Bariloche. And so this one guy knew this physicist who was a character, and he would love Telemark. And first thing, I saw him in the slopes, and he's trying to do switches, so he's going backwards on telly, and after a few turns, he crashes so badly. And I thought that was so freaking awesome. And so I started talking to him. I say, dude, how could we create some sort of Telemark course? And he's like, I know a guy in Taos. And so he knew another physicist who was working for the Santa Fe Institute, which is a lot of research, nuclear research is being done there. But this guy in the weekends will be a level 3 PSIA Telemark instructor.
Oh, wow.
And so I said to him, why don't we create our own little program? So basically what we did It was, hey Dave, if you fly yourself to Argentina, we cover all your costs, all your bases while here during 2 weeks, and we're gonna feed you. You're gonna stay in my house. You're gonna have your own room, and we're gonna get you ski lift tickets for Catedral. And then we went south to Esquel in La Olla, and that was it. And I immediately ordered my first pair of boots from. I think I bought them in Mountain Tools in California, and they ship them down here. It cost me as expensive. I pay as much as the boots in
for
taxes.
shipping. Oh, geez.
For the taxes, actually, it was more than.
Oh my God.
It was twice the boots and shipping. So I think it was like a total $800 for my first boots. But I was so psyched and so happy to be learning it, and I still have the videos. And so that was it. So my wife and myself were the only people in that group that were not self-taught telemarketers. So we got actual instructions, with structured instruction, which is awesome because I could benefit from all the years that PSIA put into, the instructors. And the rest of the crew were all self-taught telemarketers. They never alpine, and they managed to learn on their own, looking at a few videos. Maybe a Norwegian stopped by one winter and gave them a little bit of tips there and there. So I have a lot of respect for my friends, my old friends from Bariloche, who always knew Telemark. That's the only thing they know, and they're still working on trying to learn, new things.
Yeah,
which is so cool. So that was it. That was the start, 2010. Only then I got the ball rolling. And so the next thing I know, after I'm working in the sort of avalanche snow safety industry. That's the other stuff that I do for work. And I met the people from 22 Designs in Teton Valley, and they put me in touch with Scotty McGee, and that was it.
Oh, and that's how you met. It's for those of you that don't know, Scotty at the time was the head of the Nordic demo team, which includes all the Telemark stuff. So
yeah.
So
founding Scotty, it was like, this is my Yoda, and I need to squeeze his knowledge as much as possible, and that's what I did. And right now I'm training for my level 3 PSIA.
Oh, I love it.
And still working on, certain things, and it's awesome.
That's really cool, man. What a cool thing, because it's like it kind of, for as much as you probably came in contact with it, 2010, by the time you kind of got it all put together, that's a pretty cool story about that.
Yeah, it took a while. It took longer than I wanted, but I was building my life here, building my house, all the things, building my little business, so we can spend more time playing, and just like most regular people do.
Yeah, and maybe explain to people. So because you've got two businesses, right?
Yeah.
And maybe explain to people a little bit about those and kind of how, what you do. And like you said, it kind of plays into that whole lifestyle thing that you've got there in Bariloche.
Yeah, I have a small company, and I have two sort of main avenues. One is backcountry skiing and some adventure travel in the summer, and that's mostly for foreigners. And then I have a training and consulting business where we do that for Argentinians or Chileans and general public. We do avalanche courses, and then also for companies, for operations, we do other trainings and consultancy on risk management. And it's a small business, and we're based in Bariloche. And then I'm very lucky because my wife She's a GIS specialist, so she makes the best topo maps and imagery for the terrain all over the Andes. She had mapped from Antarctica to the Huascarán in Peru, and so it's a luxury to have that resource next to me.
That's so amazing. That talk about the perfect match.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I didn't when at first I told you that certain things conspired for me to move on into certain things. It's deliberate that I have chosen those words because certain things appear in front of me that help me shape that. And I was very fortunate to came across Patagonia, coming across Telemark, coming across a Chilean wife.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And so so you got kind of the sort of the guiding aspect, and then I mean you're kind of one of the first. So you're trying to think how to word this. Most of your training, avalanche safety stuff is the AAIRE stuff, correct?
Correct. And I had some. My first trainings were at Knowles, and actually I was privileged to have, like, Don Sharaf was my first instructor in '99 at Knowles, and that sort of got the whole thing ignited. Yeah. And then I switched to AAIRE. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, do I remember right that you're one of the people that helped translate the AAIRE program into Spanish? Is that right?
So basically what happened is by then I was coming out. I was part of a generation here that very often will say that there were no avalanches in the Andes, and far from reality, there were avalanches. And then by the time I was, a junior professional, there were avalanches killing people because the number of people going into the backcountry starting to increase. So I started a search for some sort of standardized education. And by the time someone hooked me up with Brian Lazar, and he's a deputy director of the Colorado Avalanche Information Center, and at the time was also AAIRE executive director. And he spent time climbing in Peru, and he and Tom Murphy, a Telemark legend and avalanche education legend who lives in Gunnison, and he was one of the two guys who created the Hatcher Pass in Alaska.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
so I was also connecting to that world because I was looking at Tom Murphy's black and white photos wearing a sweater and going into chest deep snow with his skinnies, and I couldn't have much more respect. And those guys look at each other and said, yeah, we're going to help you. We're going to help you build a Spanish program down there. And I was fired up. I got the support from these people who were so prominent in everything they do or they used to do. And that's how I started to translate materials at first, and then I needed to get trained myself. So I did a very, very steep learning curve with them and with other prominent avalanche professionals. Colin Mitchell, Colin Zacharias, Ben Pritchett, all of them good skiers too. And I continue to walk that path. So every year I will acquire some knowledge, some experience from some other professional, and then I will pass it through my team down here and slowly creating a different mentality. And as an example of that, in 2015, I translated an application to share mountain data, particularly snow data, That's called Mountain Hub. And for different reasons, that didn't work in North America. But for us right now, it's a free platform where people could share observations and slowly start getting into a more organized way of, dealing with the uncertainty of snow in the mountains.
Wow, that's amazing. What a cool thing to be a part of, man. I mean, that's to be able to pioneer that kind of stuff down there and share knowledge. And, I think for people, from what I've gathered, I mean, backcountry travel down there in the winter is not what it is up here, and I think that's, is that a fair assessment? Like there's not as many people?
No, there's not as many people. And lately, in the past 3 years, we have quite an increase. And so basically what's happening now, same as it happened at some point in the US, the people who were always skiers in the resort, they start getting bored, and they want to be able to access different, more terrain and different snow. And this is helped also by the evolution of the equipment at all levels. So I think that's allowing a larger audience to access the backcountry. And then lately, of course, with this situation we're experiencing right now, that went overhead. So we have people who maybe don't even ski all the runs in the ski resort, and they already own a backcountry setup of some kind. That could be a split board, or I've seen people snowshoeing and carrying, alpine skis on their backs.
Yeah, that's like the early days of stuff here for sure.
Yeah, you name it. And also, moreover, the national park is shut right now, and so we were all packed in 4 mountains which are overlooking Bariloche. So it's quite a scene. Yeah. And the first few days, actually, we were going pretty much in the middle of the night to avoid the cops, because Argentina went into a very, very, very strict curfew shutdown or lockdown, and we were.
You guys were doing some midnight COVID laps, so the police wouldn't catch you.
Yeah. Well,
nice.
It took a little bit of logistics, like leaving the car in a different spot, and then walking a little more. But we have this winter, it's amazing. We had so much snow, and we were able to ski off the roads everywhere. And so it was like, we cannot miss this opportunity. And of course, we did it responsibly, not in a way that you could explain to an administrator, but we're not shooting crazy stuff. We're simply backcountry skiing, making sure that we don't get hurt.
Yeah,
and then end up in the hospital at these times.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we were conservative. Yeah,
that's a good story. I like that. little rebel style. Oh man. Well, and that's it's cool to see that you're getting the snow safety stuff down there, because I think it's almost hard to imagine, like when I came, so you invite I came down to your place 2 or 3 years ago already?
Yeah, 2017 I think.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Time flies. But I remember coming down there. It's almost like with the Telemark stuff, for instance, and it almost sounds like the snow safety stuff is similar. It's almost like hard to imagine, because here it's so developed. Like everyone knows what Telemark is here, and snow safety's in the last 10 years has blown up too. And I mean, down there, it's like people were looking at us telemarking in this. You put together this Patagonia Telemark Festival, and there's like 30 of us, and people are like, what is that? Like they'd literally never even seen it,
We we get a kick when someone off the line says, "Hey, guy, your binding is broken." I swear to God, I heard that a few times.
But they like legitimately think it's not even a joke, right? Like they actually think it's broken.
Not a joke. Yeah, and and then also heard a dad telling to his son, "Look, those are backcountry bindings. Like those are touring bindings." See, and
oh, wow.
So yeah, it's like many times we're in a barbecue party. We call them asados, which is like a ceremonial gathering in Argentina to eat a lot of meat.
I love it, and they're good.
And then you talk about telemark. It's like, what is that? Telemark? What do you mean? Telemarketing? Telemarketing? No, it's telemarketing. And then you have to explain the whole story. Like, oh, this is the original farm for skiing. Started in Norway. So it's very, very cool. And now because we spend enough time up in the mountain that we're getting more of the attention of the instructors, who is cool because those guys, they see the value of slowly because they also work abroad, especially in Europe, and they see the importance of cross training. So if you want, in other words, and this is something cool that I learned from Scotty, but like if you want to be a better alpine skier, come telemark, and if you want to be a better telemarker, I started taking some classes from some alpine trainers because I wanted to work on something on my alpine because it will translate into my telemark.
Oh, interesting. So, a little cross back and forth.
Cross back and forth, and like you grab one idea, and the idea you could, it works transversal from telemark to alpine, and so I could learn from that idea, isolating that idea from the rest of the sport. For instance, so say I want to work on my tele carving, so then I went to alpine to work on my alpine carving and to isolate a certain idea, right? So I don't have to worry all the rest I'm working on my telemark. And then I will come back to telemark and try to apply that idea. For instance, the pressure management on my outside ski. So that helped me a lot. And also it keeps it so much fun. I mean, it's so fun. And the quicker you can adjust from alpine, the fore aft balance, when you switch from one to the other, I think that's what it really makes you just being a more rounded skier in general.
Yeah, you guys get deep in the details at that level 3. That's it's. I was watching you guys do those exams even for like 1 and 2, and I was like, oh man. So, but that's it, and I think what's cool too is, and part of why I wanted to even have you on the podcast too is, I think it's fascinating, like having come down there and you realize that there's part of the reason people don't know visually what telemark is there's not that much equipment there, and you guys have some difficulty getting distribution there, and like you mentioned earlier, the taxes are tough to get gear into the country at a price that's maybe easy for people to get. I was gonna have you mention I was gonna mention Pato and his shop. I thought that was such a cool thing, man, when you took me there, and tell people what's going on with that.
Yeah, so in Bariloche, because of this situation, there are two successful use it again shops essentially, and so there's a lot of trading of gear, and so they give this anything you name it, like kids skis, alpine skis, Nordic skis, telemark skis, snowboards. They get passed along the way to people who are starting, and I guess for myself, I'm lucky that I get to travel. And I could purchase my equipment in North America and bring it along with me, and then adjust to certain changes, etc. But Pato is one of the owners of JG Sports, and and he started telemarketing a few years back. And so with that, he realized that it was a great opportunity to have the only telemark corner on a shop in South America, period. And so slowly we start helping him to attain that. So I started working with 22 Designs, and then every trip will bring a bunch of used boots. Scotty did his big part of that, buying cheap 75 mil boots in the U.S. and not because we wanted to make money. At least we were barely retrieving that cash back to us, but so people could try it. And then people will mount those bindings in any ski they might be able to get here and get started. So that's very unique. Now we have this little corner, and we even made it a little, a really physical spot for it. So we concentrate all the time on equipment in JG Sports in Bariloche in downtown.
Yeah.
And so instead of having a lot of people will call me, with questions about gear, so it's so much easier to point everyone in the direction of the shop. So you can, and Pato become really savvy about all this equipment, and I give him all the information, for instance, on the sizing of the boots and the sizing of the bindings and pros and cons of different equipment. So that helped a lot. People could go there and get started. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the coolest things to see, is to go in there and see this like little Telemark corner of the used gear. And I mean, just to be able to witness that like in that early of form, like where people, like you said, most people aren't going to know what it is, but as they become aware of it and they're interested, now there's actually a place for them to go. So I just thought that was really cool. And Pato gave me mate when I went in there, so I felt pretty legit Argentinian experience. Like, it was no joke. That's what I remember. I have this awesome picture. Like, I walk in and I was like, oh, hey, like, I'm just coming to check out your shop. He's like, oh, you want mate? And I was like, sure. And then everyone just passes the mate around, and I'm like, this is sweet, man. I'm digging the vibe down here.
And imagine having a mate right now in the U.S.
Oh, man.
Call the police.
Yeah, no. I don't think this is the year to start passing the mate around in the Freeheel Life shop. I don't know if that would go over too well.
You can always grab a coffee mug, the classic plastic coffee mug, and enlarge the hole through where you sip the coffee, and just like stick the bombilla there and have your own American mate.
Do you guys have? If someone out there's never had mate, the bombilla is like this metal straw with kind of like a filter end to it, and mate is an herb, and you put it in hot water, and then you basically put that little bombilla in there, and it's basically filters the tea, as you're sipping it. But do you guys? Here's a funny question. I don't know, because is there a disposable version of a bombilla?
They used to sell one.
No one bought it.
No one bought it. Like, if you're gonna do it, really, like you want to do it pretty close to the real stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So the real bombilla is made of alpaca, which is like a lower grade sterling silver, which is a little cheaper. But also, what it does is, and also even the part where you put your lips in contact with, it's covered in a very thin layer of gold. So the whole combination, what it does is like, it doesn't burn as if it were regular cheap metal.
Yeah.
It will be regular cheap metal.
It heats it up
be
as
close
you
to
sit
burning.
through it.
Yeah. So this one dissipates more of the heat, and it makes it pleasurable to put your lips in that thing. And then, of course, south of Bariloche, there is a town of El Bolson, and that's a hippie capital of South America. And those guys make their own bombillas with different kinds of bamboo. And
oh, interesting.
they're very, there's a lot of handcrafting of, like, I guess a little more progressive, not so traditional mates. and it's pretty cool too. All natural fibers and materials, and they get pretty creative, those guys.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting because like I told you when I was living in Brazil, I lived in the northern part and nobody drinks mate up there. They actually call it chimarrão, which is it's a little more powdery than how you guys do it. Yours is a little more leafy.
Yeah.
But
the
Gaúchos.
Brazilian style. Yeah. Well, the in southern Brazil there is the Gaúcho in Rio Grande do Sul.
Yeah.
Basically the section of Brazil neighboring Uruguay, it's pretty much Gaucho culture, just like across the border from Argentina and Uruguay. It's pretty much the same thing. And the culture and everything, and they have a lot of mate. But the Brazilian style, the yerba doesn't have sticks, so it creates a more compact structure when you add water, more like a tea bag, I guess. And they also use boiled water and instead of warm water.
Oh, okay. Because you were saying how hot's the water you guys use?
Here, 75 centigrades. It's ideal. It's pretty hot, but it's not boiling.
Got it.
It's sometimes just before boiling. And so the idea will be like, as you pour water on different rounds on the gourd, it will last longer. Like if you were using boiling water, that will fade away the flavor much quicker. That's why we do it that way.
I love the detail, man. That's amazing. So everybody out there, get ready for mate when you go to Bariloche.
Yeah, get ready. It's part of Telemark too.
And the asado, you gotta do that, man. The meat and mate.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think the future looks like for Telemark and backcountry skiing? Since that's your whole world. There is, the next 10 years in Bariloche in Argentina. Like, what do you think it's gonna? Does it look promising? Does it look like it's gonna grow if you guys can get more equipment for Telemark? And what are your thoughts on that?
So we were working on trying to set up, certification standards for ski instructors here, which is part of just one section of the wheel, right? The other section of the wheel we were working on is to have a place where people could find equipment, at least to get them started. So that's the other part of the wheel, right? We got the instructors or instruction, and then we got the equipment. And then also trying to get a little more of the media or even the attention from the people in the ski resorts, which haven't seen this before. Interestingly, there is what's called the history race in Bariloche, and so there is older folks, 60s and beyond, who show up with their original equipment and even clothing. It's pretty cool. And it's pretty cool to watch them to ski that gear too. It's like it makes you think like how privileged we are to ski such a high level of evolution on the equipment. But some of the guys go with these very old wooded skis that had screwed in edges, and it's really sketchy. It's really, really sketchy with Freeheels.
Oh, for sure.
And they're not wearing Gore-Tex precisely. They're all wearing wool sweaters and stuff. But that said, it's interesting because we're starting in the other end at a time where there is also a great evolution on the Telemark equipment around the world. And so I see this as two connecting points. It's like seeing the origins here, which is basically just like in Europe. And then on the other end is us, newcomers to the sports, but we are enjoying this development on the equipment. Or in other words, like right now, for someone who really wants to get serious about it, they could, if they really wanted, they could get, maybe an NTN binding, and they haven't even really ski the old 75 millimeter. So they haven't really walked the evolution, and yet they're jumping straight to the new gear, and so I think it's it's a different story when it comes to that, but the evolution on the equipment makes it also attractive right now. It's not because of the weight; it's because of the effectiveness of that pressing of the ball of the foot that is in the rear.
Yeah,
that makes it opens up a lot of possibilities once you start feeling that. Just for any alpine skier who jumps into Telemark. The other thing has to do a little bit with a little bit, I would call it the Italian influence in Argentina. So, Italians are really proud of their Ferraris, their Lamborghinis, and all that stuff. It's like we really want to look really good, despite the real actual quality of what we wear or use, but we really want to look really, really, really good. And that's why a lot of people that I've seen around me that they want to start telemarketing, they look at us, it's like, it's hard to tell them to go to a shop and get all 75 millimeters when we all wearing using NTN bindings. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not...
It's like you're telling them to get an old pickup truck when you're driving the Ferrari yourself.
Exactly. So it's like, no, dude, no. I want to start with exactly what you're wearing right now because it looks really, really good.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. And yeah.
So that it's very Italian from that perspective, People in general, people want to have the best, especially about gear and cars. That's, I think, very Italian.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, and like you're saying, I mean, you can learn on any gear. I think, the biggest obstacle you're talking about it. It's like getting the equipment there and then having a way to learn the technique. It's like, and I've said that a lot on other podcasts. It's all about rentals, rental availability, gear availability, and lessons. Because people get interested, but they're also going to forget if they can't pursue it very quickly. So
yeah. And I think once you drive into reality, like if they look at the price of entry-level equipment that is cheap, so essentially compared to new NTN gear. So I think it's a way to go to start right on there, spending less. And also, I think there is something about learning the teleturn on original 75 millimeter gear, whether that is an old Rotefella binding or a not so old hammerhead. There's something about learning the different balances and forces at play, different from going just straight to NTN. I think there's something to say about that, and I think it's good to experience that. Ideally, I think you really want to experience that lower tension cable before jumping into something 100% active like the NTN. It's a little thought that I had.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, you definitely learn the technique because you're actually having to do a lot more of the technique manually than you are like the bindings activating the ball of your foot for you. So I can see that line of thinking for sure. And the cost, yeah, for sure. Oh man. Well, cool, man. Well, I guess just to kind of wrap up, where can people, if someone wants to come down to Argentina and maybe wants to reach out to you about any of your businesses or just to get, ask questions, what's a good way to get in contact with you, like website or something like that?
Yes, we have one website for backcountry skiing guiding that's called Magellanica Guides. And then our snow safety business is called Aprendica, with Aprendica.com both. And or look up for my name, Diego Allolio, with a double L at first.
I'll put them in the show notes too, so people have all the links.
And I'll be happy to help. We still have telemarketers from all over the world who they come here with a dream to to tour these mountains, and it's great to be able to help folks who are part of the same telemark community. We had people from many different places who came here to Tele, and it's pretty cool that we really speak that same turn language.
I love that. Well, I can attest to the experience of going down there. I it's a fantastic spot to visit. Amazing food, people, skiing, and I can't wait to come back, man. Thanks for doing the podcast, my bro. I love it.
You're very welcome, Josh. And anyone who wants to try it out, here we are. Hopefully, these weird times end soon, and we can go back to travel mode, which is such a cool way of spare time and money, right?
I agree. It's a good way to get to know each other and other cultures, man. It's a key component if you can get it. So
absolutely.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for being on, and we'll make sure to check in with you again and see how things are growing down there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh, and hello to everyone on the other side, and thanks for the time.
I love it, brother. All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, Josh. Right. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Woo-wee. I love South America, and I loved catching up with Diego. He's a good dude, and he's doing some amazing stuff. And it's cool to think that there are so many places on this earth still that Telemark is just absolutely new. And that conversation was a lot of fun to have. I can't wait to go down and do some more skiing in Bariloche, and I need to get to Chile and do some skiing as well. I actually got a sweet tattoo in Bariloche too, so it was good. But as I've said before, I got to work on my Spanish a little bit. I have a love for South America, having lived down in Brazil, but my Portuguese doesn't translate so well to the old Spanish. But anyways, awesome conversation. I'm really glad Diego could take the time to do that for us, and I'm sure we will have him on in the future. So for you out there that are listening to the Freeheel Life podcast and are stoked on the work that I'm doing, you can always support the podcast directly by making a donation of your choice to paypal.me/freeheellife. You can always shop at freeheellife.com. We hope to be your preferred telemark shop this winter. We cannot wait to get things rolling, and we've got people back in the shop starting to crank away, getting ready and anticipating for hopefully what is a deep winter up here in North America. So in the meantime, we're firing up some new articles for telemarkskier.com. You can check out stuff on there from years past and get your stoke on all our social media channels. And you can always hit me up at podcast@freeheellife.com with questions, comments, and corrections. Love you guys lots. Really appreciate you listening. And until next week, spread telemark always.